What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid-techno, and I'm back to redo a reaction I did on my old channel. I mentioned it a number of times. My old videos, once I re-downloaded them from YouTube, they were compressed. So the audio isn't quite as good, the video isn't quite as good. There's a few reactions that I felt they were just so sort of natural and good in the moment that I'm not going to redo them. I have uploaded some of those. There's a few more to go. But a lot of them I felt like, you know, the reaction was maybe a little bit long-winded, or maybe the sound levels weren't quite right. Basically, I've sort of tweaked the way I do these videos over time. So a number of them I just feel like it's better to go back and redo them. And this is one of the all-time classics of UK, like London acid techno, so I felt like if you're gonna talk about this track, you might as well have it played at the highest possible quality. So yeah, we're gonna go back and redo London Acid City by Lochi, aka Chris Liberator and Laurie Immersion. This tune is as classic as you get. Now, this is admittedly not on the Routemaster vinyl, which I believe was 94, or no, it's in 96. I think it's 96. Which I mentioned it before, 1996 for me, acid techno, acid trance, it's such a magic year. Now, I only got into dance music at the very end of that year, and it wasn't until maybe early to mid 97 that I found my way to acid techno. But once I did, the tunes that were then sort of, you know, really hot and really tearing up the, you know, compilations and DJ mixes and so on were tunes from 96, 95, and so on. So yeah, London Acid City, it's a tune that I heard very early on. It was on, I believe, the second of the Sound of Acid Core CD compilations, which were, you know, one of the main gateways for me to get into both acid techno and acid trance. I've told the story before, but a lot of the times I've mentioned this in my old videos on my old channel. So my entry into electronic music, my older brother started going to like Goa trance, psychedelic trance parties. And late 96 he took me to one of those, and early 97 we went to another one, and I brought a couple of my friends. And so then I was really starting to get into this trance music and sort of electronic music that my brother was playing and, you know, showing me. And I mentioned to him, you know, there's a sound that I keep hearing in these Goa trance tracks. Like, what is that sound? He's like, oh, that's the acid sound. You know, there's like entire genres like devoted to that. And I was like, oh, really? And so shortly after that, I discovered acid techno and acid trance, and the rest, as they say, is history. But this track, I would argue, with the one exception of One Night in Hackney, I would say is like the most famous acid techno track, certainly like in the London acid techno style. It's, you know, it's an anthem. It's sort of like, it embodies the sound itself. It's this warm, really having it sort of acid techno feel. So it is what it talks about. And it's not a surprise to me that now, what, you know, 25 or 26 years later, it's as popular and as well remembered as ever. So we're not going to listen to it on the Routemaster vinyl. As I said, this is a Stay Up Forever remix vinyl. So here we go. This is Lochi, London Acid City, the original mix, heard here on Stay Up Forever Remix 4.
London Acid City. London Acid City. London Acid City.
Our time.
Our time is now.
Certainly was, and it certainly still is. And it's like, this is one of those tunes that, like this one and Shapeshift by Dynamo City, Control by Secret Hero. There's a lot of tunes in the early Stay Up Forever days that are, like, to me, as nostalgic as buzzing and zipping away. I love that little accent or flare at the end of the riff. What up? What up? The other layer now kind of like needling its way through the middle of it all. The flare is getting brighter, temperature getting hotter. Going into firework mode for a minute, but then calming down. This metallic sort of it's like this rattling, I guess, is the sort of motion it suggests to my brain. It's intense, it's a bit dissonant, it's a bit on the edge, but it gives the back half of this track just the edge it needs. Love the hats coming in there too, nice, crisp and clean. The whole track is still, it's like you got the snare building still. Real deep, gurgly acid layers now. It's like an acid thicket. There's no way out. Like every way you turn, there's another acid layer. That sound like really in isolation. You can hear it, the dissonant quality more. It's like a malfunctioning, like security robot. What I love about so many of these tunes from the mid-90s, they just have this like eccentricity. They don't follow like a simple like structure, like formulaic articulation or evolution. They bring bits out, and then you think it's the outro, but then they bring everything back in, and there's another flourish with some eccentricities. And there was a sort of like wild creativity that so many of the 90s acid tunes, acid techno and acid trance. Every time I hear that line, it's like, fucking hell, yeah, it really was. You go out the door with screaming 303s. Yeah, there's a reason that's a classic. I really do love it. I didn't get turntables until '98, and even though I did get some of the classic Stay Up Forever releases pretty early on, Stay Up Forever Remix 2, whatchamacallit, The Rabbit's Name Was remixes with the crazy Chris Needs, Keck Tex, Dynamite, I forget exactly like the phrase of that remix, but that was one of the first records I got. Yeah, so this wasn't one. This one I got a few years later. I would say, I think it was pre-Discogs. So I think I probably got it through like Hard to Find Records or like one of those like websites that was like popular like turn of the millennium, like Satellite Records and whatever. I think it was Hard to Find Records, but yeah, I did get it a few years after, or at least a couple years after I got turntables. So yeah, I've always enjoyed this one. The John the Dentist remix on the other side, I'm going to come back and react to that one, which is another reaction I did on my old channel, but again, I think I talked a lot and ultimately the sound wouldn't be as good if I just reposted it, so yeah, I'm going to come back and redo it. It has a different feel, you know, not surprisingly because he made hard trance and hard house. It has a bit more of like a, you know, kind of hard trance, maybe even a bit of a hard house feel, but it's got a lot of acid and it cuts up the vocal in a very interesting way. So hopefully you're here to come back and see that one. Let me know if you are. Let me know what you think about this one. As I mentioned, I think maybe the only London acid techno tune of more like mainstream notoriety and sort of international success is perhaps One Night in Hackney. But I do think that one is remembered even by people for whom acid techno is not one of their main pursuits. I do think it's a very known track. So yeah, let me know what you think. Other than that, thank you for listening and watching. I will see you next time.